The Soft Animal of Your Body by CheatsatUNO. Chapter 3. You Do Not Have to Be Good. Harry wakes up to Ron's obnoxious snoring. Only the fact that he's lived with the sound for most of his life keeps Harry from being bothered by it. Last night had been weird. Harry isn't used to actually having an outlet for all his conflicting feelings. He'd been honest when he told the little creature that, while he adores his best friends, he can't stand the resentment he feels towards them as they easily move forwards and see futures for themselves. Harry himself is stuck, the boy from a prophecy completed. Where else does he belong now that his life's purpose was fulfilled? People have suggested keeping the good times rolling and becoming an aura. It had been an interest a few years ago, but now he just feels tired. After a lifetime of chasing after the biggest bad guy there was, he doesn't think he wants to fill the rest of his days with more of the same. Talking about it out loud helped, and Harry suspects that seeing a mind healer might actually do more than substituting a trained professional with a ferret. But mind healers don't fit in his hand and let him pet them. Well, they might. He is Harry Potter. He's sure if he asked he could convince at least one person to do that. So not only is Harry using an animal as a therapist, he also noticed something very strange about his furry little friend. The unmistakable intelligence behind those eyes hasn't been lost on Harry. The way the animal moves is also odd. Often nodding or shaking its small head in response to things Harry says is decidedly un-animal-like. There is no way Harry's new friend is just a ferret. There's an odd familiarity to the situation, one that Harry isn't sure of his feelings for. Upon waking up, Harry notices two things. It's still early in the morning, the sun barely brightens the room, and the ferret is escaping once again. The Gryffindor catches the tail end of the animal, squeezing under his door and scampering away from his room. As if by instinct, Harry reaches for his bedside table, opens the second drawer, and pulls out the Marauders map. A quiet, I solemnly swear I'm up to no good, and tap from his wand has ink stretching into a map of the 8th year dormitory. A single name is on the move, tiny footsteps leading away from Harry's own name. Harry's breath catches in his throat. Draco Malfoy. Draco Malfoy is the ferret that Harry has been pouring his heart out to for the past 2 days. It suddenly all makes sense. The ferret looks familiar because he'd seen the same ferret in 4th year when a fake Mad-Eye Moody had transfigured the blonde into one. The ferret is stubborn and cranky because it's Malfoy. The ferret sometimes acts so human because it is human. Well, shit, he whispers into the dawn. Harry watches Malfoy's name get farther and farther away. He closes the map. Mischief managed indeed. This would certainly explain why the ferret seemed so upset last night when Harry had started discussing Malfoy. He was probably scared of being found out. But then why did he come to Harry's room last night at all? Looking back, Malfoy has tried his best to avoid Harry as both a human and a ferret. Only Harry holding him still allowed them any time together. And isn't that something? Can't he even have a conversation with a Slytherin unless Harry physically restrains him? But Malfoy had come to his room on his own last night. He'd been hiding under his bed. Why? Harry can't stop his heart from fluttering a bit, hoping that maybe Malfoy simply wanted to talk to him. It's what Harry wants to do, to maybe find a friend in his former bully, who carried none of that old spite in his eyes or the faux easy posture that covered up how calculated each movement really was. Harry himself didn't see just how built up the Draco Malfoy persona was until he watched it crumble in that bathroom 2 years ago. It was then that Harry truly realized that Malfoy was just as trapped by his family as Harry was by his dead parents. Of course, Harry hadn't handled any of that well at the time. Too high-strung to actually care about anyone else and their complicated situations. Too focused on the black ink on Malfoy's pale skin that hurt Harry more than it should. And now that same person is masquerading as a ferret for reasons unknown. No, not unknown. If anyone knew about Malfoy's situation, it would be the new headmistress. McGonagall has made it a point to keep a sharp eye on all her students, especially the returning 8th years. So Harry dresses himself, barely pausing to use a few refreshing spells and brush his teeth before heading to McGonagall's new office. The gargoyles announce his presence to the headmistress inside. Harry only waits a few moments before the door opens and McGonagall stands before him, looking freshly woken up and irate. "Oh yeah, it's barely even 4 in the morning. Oops. Mr. Potter, to what do I owe this pleasure?" Harry winces, flashing a guilty smile. "I wanted to talk to you about one of the other students. I'm worried about them." "And who might that be?" Headmistress McGonagall stands primly in front of Harry. Where she used to look down at him, Harry's really shot up and filled out. He now looks down at her. He's got the ridiculous urge to stoop. "Draco Malfoy." If he hadn't been so close, Harry might have missed the slight widening of her eyes. She spins on her heel, robes flaring out around her, and walks deeper into the office. She doesn't even pause as she speaks. "Come along, Mr. Potter. We shouldn't discuss out in the hallway." Harry steps inside after her, taking the preferred seat on the opposite side of her desk. He admittedly feels an odd mix of emotion at being in this office again. Before any of them could settle, McGonagall clears her throat to reclaim his attention. "Now, what are your concerns about Mr. Malfoy?" "He's missing." Best to start out with something she should already know. Harry doubts McGonagall hasn't noticed that the student required by the Ministry to be here and nowhere else without any escort is missing. "I am well aware of where Mr. Malfoy is at present. You needn't worry." Her eyes narrow, as if Harry is going to let this go. Nothing that the headmistress says is going to get him to back off right now. "Then you must be aware of his activities." "Mr. Potter, I'm sure I don't know what you mean. And it must be the title of headmaster that makes people think Harry needs to be kept in the dark on all things. Granted, this is actually Malfoy's business, but Harry's far too used to having Malfoy's business also be his business for that to matter." "He's a ferret, headmistress." Harry's deadpan statement is met with a blank face. The office is filled with a tense silence, neither willing to budge. The waiting puts him on edge, his patience having shrunk significantly since the war. If he's being honest, it's been on a downhill spiral since third year. Finally, McGonagall lets out a long-suffering sigh, her taut posture relaxing just so. "You really cannot leave well enough alone, can you, Harry?" Harry shakes his head in answer. McGonagall places her hands on the desk and sits forward, commanding the attention of the room. "Yes, he is an animagus, unregistered." "So is there a reason you're allowing him to skip classes and be fed scraps in the kitchen?" "I would hardly call being catered to by the kitchen staff being fed scraps. He eats what the other students eat. And please stop bouncing your leg. I would appreciate that," she snaps. Harry hadn't realized his leg was even moving. He stops it, instead allowing his hands to become restless, wringing his fingers of his right hand with his left. Feeling appropriately chastised, especially since he'd woken the headmistress up so early, Harry takes a deep breath and tries to calm down. The nervous energy he's felt since his discovery is still there, but Harry is trying to ignore it now. "What I am going to tell you must not leave this room. Not even Mr. Weasley or Miss Granger should be told. This is very personal information, and I will only tell you if you agree to help Mr. Malfoy with his current situation." Harry nods immediately. "At the beginning of the Christmas holidays, Mr. Malfoy shifted into his animagus form, and later came to me, unable to shift back. I have tried several spells and have sent out an order for a particular potion, but he's remained in his animagus form." "But how do you get stuck? Is that a common side effect?" "It's not a common side effect, no. What I fear may be Mr. Malfoy's problem is inherently a very personal matter. It has been recorded that—" here McGonagall pauses and inhales deeply. "Some animagi no longer wish to be human. They prefer their animal forms. And with the lack of will to change back, their magic prevents it. That is what I believe has befallen Mr. Malfoy." You think Malfoy doesn't want to be human anymore?" "I have been concerned for him since the beginning of the first term." "You and me both. So what, I just have to make him want to be human again?" Harry leans forwards, elbows on his knees and chin resting on his interlaced fingers. His heel is tapping lightly on the ground, lightly enough to hopefully evade the headmistress's notice. Harry has of course noticed Malfoy's fall from grace and his new quiet, withdrawn attitude. But how does that translate to not wanting to be human anymore? Does Malfoy think being a rodent is better? What about his friends? His mother? Harry remembers them being particularly close. At least that's how it seemed to him. Surely Malfoy misses them. Harry can't imagine Malfoy going long without all the posh things he must be used to, like his fancy Swiss chocolates that he used to brag about getting. So I just have to remind him why he should want to be human. Why, yes, it's simply that easy, the headmistress says in a tone that tells Harry that he is definitely oversimplifying things. Another heavy sigh. But yes, that is the long and short of it. Mr. Malfoy must want to become human again, or else his magic will keep him trapped as a ferret. Where'd you go this morning? I heard you sneaking back in, Ron asks around a mouthful of eggs. Hermione makes a disgusted face, and Harry mirrors it. I had a chat with McGonagall about, my career choices, since she used to be our head of house. Harry struggles with lying to his friends. It does help, though, when he uses his actual worries to throw them off. What about the aura training program? Thought we were going to be partners, Ron whines, swallowing and setting his fork down to devote all his attention to him. It's touching. I don't know, is chasing more dark wizards really what I want? Harry thinks back to his very one-sided conversation with the ferret Malfoy. I think it's just what's expected of me. The idea of risking my life and then filling out paperwork about it every other day doesn't really excite me, you know? Harry refuses to look up. Ron has been excited about becoming a dream team of auras at the Ministry, and he doesn't want to pop his best friend's bubble. A shoulder knocking against his own drags him from his head. Mate, don't look so worried. If you don't want to be an aura, don't. More glory for me. Yeah, Harry. If you won't be happy in your chosen profession, then it isn't right for you. Take your time. If you want help researching more career advice, we can always get some more of those pamphlets. The wizarding world really should have job fairs. Not everyone can work at the Ministry. Hermione looks on the verge of a new rant. Ron and Harry exchange a glance and started to laugh. Hermione puffs out her cheeks in frustration for only a second, before a smile breaks out onto her face. And soon they're all laughing. We'll figure this out, mate. We'll find a job for you yet. And if that fails, you can just retire as one of those rich types that donates to charity and hosts galas and never leaves his house. Ah, yes, a proper pureblood. A credit to the Potter name, I'm sure. More laughter, and others at the table chime in with their own career plans. Lunch is coming to a close, and Harry has to enact his first attempt at convincing Draco. He should be Draco now, right? That he should be human again. Entering the kitchen, it isn't hard to spot the blinding white fur of Draco amongst the warm earth tones of the rest of the room. Hey there, he calls, smiling when Draco whips around and squeaks. He stands still, dark eyes trained on the Gryffindor. Harry is afraid that he'll run away again. It's a great shock when Draco timidly steps forwards and sniffs at his shoes. Harry takes that as permission to scoop the blonde up and drop him into the deep pockets of his robe. Angry screeching comes in a steady stream from Draco's tiny mouth, and if Harry's smiling widely all the way to Charms, no one bothers him about it. Calm down, will you? I'm taking you to class with me. If you're that loud, we'll both get kicked out. Harry shushes Draco, who is not quieted down at all. He has half a mind to cast a muffling charm over his pocket, but he's worried about Draco somehow actually getting hurt or needing to get his attention. Trying to reason with him is his only choice right now. Merlin knows how that's ended up in the past. Please, I think you'll like going to class. At least we can spend more time together. Harry's actually shocked when that works and Draco stops yelling. A little white head peeps out from his pocket, glaring with as much reproach as an animal can. Harry meets his gaze with a wild smile, laughing a bit. If Draco had acted more like this as a kid rather than a miniature version of his father, Harry imagines they could have been friends. And what a wild thought that is. Sliding his hand into the pocket beside Draco, he runs his fingers along the boy's long back. As expected, he gets a perfunctory nip, but nothing else. Harry decides to keep it a secret that he knows the ferret in his pocket is actually Draco Malfoy. Draco has spent the better part of the first term avoiding Harry like the plague. Harry assumes the only reason Draco is even letting Harry near him now is because he believes Harry to be none the wiser. Well, he'll just have to use that to his advantage. The last thing he wants is to tell the Slytherin that he knows his secret and never see him again. Charms turns out to be a mixed bag. Flitwick is introducing a new charm that will absolutely be on their exams, and Harry and Ron are failing spectacularly. Hermione gets the hang of it pretty quickly and tries her hand at helping, but academic help from her usually ends quickly and with much frustration on both sides. Bloody hell! Love her, but if she tells me that my wrist needs to relax and keep stiff one more time, I'm gonna lose it, Ron grumbles. Flitwick isn't any better either. I can't twist my hand any faster, or he'll have to send me to Madame Pomfrey. Is this really going to be on the exam? Harry drops down onto his bench beside his friend. Yes, both Hermione and a passing Professor Flitwick remark. The boys let out twin groans. Now, I know the wrist movements can be difficult in this particular charm, so I'd advise everyone to take a few minutes of rest before giving it another go. Flitwick returns to the front of the classroom, looking as if he's holding back laughter at the sighs of relief from half the class. Harry folds his arms on the table in front of him and settles his head in the cradle they make. He nudges the lump under his robe, which is balled up on top of the table that he is currently leaning against. Movement, and then two small black eyes meet green. Draco looks positively smug. And I bet you could do better. In all honesty, Draco probably could. The man is gifted in charms and potions. The Draco in front of him seems to agree and bobs his head with pride. What you got there, mate? Ron stops his conversation with Neville, attention now focused on his robe. Is that the ferret you've been looking for? Hermione's head joins her boyfriend's in crowding around the table. Draco freezes, small body tensing. Harry's unfortunately very familiar with that posture. It usually precedes Draco legging it as far from Harry as possible. Trying to catch the other's eyes, Harry hopes desperately for him to stay. So you managed to catch him? Ron leans closer, and Draco's head whips around from Ron to Hermione, and finally lands on Harry. In a second, it disappears back under his robe, but he stays on the table. I did. He's shy, though. Hermione gives him an odd look, and he can feel his own cheeks stretching in a wide grin. Maybe he looks silly, but he can't help it, especially since his words caused Draco to start squeaking indignantly in his nest of robes. And very cute, he adds. Harry's rewarded with more angry noises, and this time Draco's head reappears to glare before hiding away again. Harry smiles wider, ignoring the fact that he just called Draco cute. He is, objectively, adorable as a ferret. And if an image of Draco as a human flashes through Harry's head unbidden, as if to show evidence of other cute Dracos, well, Harry doesn't have to tell anyone that. And he doesn't belong to anyone. Hermione's voice puts Harry on edge. It's that same tone she gets when her brain starts whirring away on some theory or other. Not that I know of. Oh, look, Flitwick is standing back up. Do you think you could help us with those wrist movements without yelling this time? Hermione huffs, frowning at his smirk before launching into a heated explanation about the speed and tautness of the wrist movement required for this particular charm. The rest of class passes with Ron and Harry both barely being able to cast, but getting a nod from the professor all the same. Herbology is mostly lecture, allowing Draco to sleep through most of it. The next day is Harry's least favourite in his schedule, back-to-back double transfiguration and potions. McGonagall side-eyes Harry when she notices he's brought in an extra student, and he can't tell if she's judgmental or pleased with his plan. She doesn't mention anything, so Harry counts that as a positive. Potions is similar to charms, where Harry is failing spectacularly, further shocking Slughorn as his once star student is back to his regular task of having to spell discoloured fluids from his cauldron. Draco, however, is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He's constantly trying to crawl onto the desk and touch potion ingredients. Part of the reason Harry's first attempt had gone up in literal smoke. You can't eat that, he hisses when Draco pops his head out from under Harry's robes on the bench beside him. His long body is stretched until his little paws are holding him up to see over the edge of the table. He sniffs at a bundle of fluxweed stems. At Harry's warning, Draco glares up at him. "You can't keep distracting me like this. I've already had to start over because you wanted to play with that dried balloon fruits." If a ferret could roll its eyes, Harry is sure Draco would have. Harry huffs and goes back to slicing up the willow leaves he needs to add in exactly 6 minutes. Draco makes a short "duke" sound. Harry ignores him. Another louder "duke." "Are you trying to be annoying?" "Duke." "Good to know it's on purpose, then." Suddenly, Draco hops onto the table. Thankfully, Harry had been late to class that day and had squirreled himself into the back corner. He wasn't sure how keen most professors would be to have a ferret interrupting lessons. Draco starts to knock around the sliced willow leaves until most have fallen to the floor. Sputtering, Harry has to shake himself into action, grabbing hold of Draco before he can do more damage. He bends low behind the table, practically seething. "What do you think you're doing?" Draco hisses and turns to look at the remaining leaves on the work table. He stares at the side of Draco's stupid furry head for a moment longer before following his gaze. All that's left of the willow are thin slithers. Then Harry remembers that this isn't just some pesky animal. It's Draco Malfoy, who is a veritable potion expert. "Are you trying to say that I was cutting the willow too thick?" He glares at the Slytherin, and the other gloats by duking loudly. "You're insufferable." Draco proceeds to squirm until he has the range to nip at Harry's hand. Used to the feeling, and aware that Draco never seems to mean actual harm with the admittedly soft bites, Harry rolls his eyes and sets the ferret down on the bench. For the rest of the lesson, Draco finds new ways to direct Harry in not botching his potion. He nips or screeches when Harry does something wrong. He spins in circles to indicate the correct direction to stir the potion and how many times. He nudges ingredients to show Harry the best order to add them to the cauldron. If Harry hadn't known he was a regular ferret before, seeing him read the potion recipe and shake his head at what he deems inefficient instructions would have tipped him off. Harry's second attempt turns out to be much better than the first, earning a shocked smile from Professor Slughorn. The common room is loud with several conversations going on at once, but that's drowned out by the chittering of Draco next to his ear. Having thrown a huge hissy fit at the thought of going back into Harry's robe pocket, Draco only calmed down when Harry offered up his shoulder as an option. Draco seems to like this new vantage point immensely. "You know, mate, your new friend kinda smells," Ron jokes, taking an exaggerated whiff of the air next to Draco. A few of the other nearby students cackle. Harry has noticed the smell. Not bad, but not exactly pleasant either. He supposes it's probably difficult to take regular baths as a ferret. Harry opens his mouth to tell Ron that he smells just about the same, but Draco takes that moment to screech and attempt to scramble down Harry's arm. Sharp seeker's reflexes keep Draco from falling to the ground in an unflattering heap in his mad dash. Harry grips the ferret, maybe a tad too tight for comfort in his panic, and hurries himself to set him down gently. The second he can, Draco breaks free and runs under a tall bookcase next to the fireplace that sits between two staircases that lead to the girls' and boys' dormitories. Harry lets out a frustrated sigh. He really hadn't taken into consideration how difficult it would be to handle Draco. "He's so flighty. I think you offended him, Ron," Neville smirks, and Ron bursts into a round of obnoxious laughter. Luna, who had joined them during Draco's escape, tilts her head slightly, eyes trained on the bottom of the bookcase. "I don't think anyone wants to be told they smell bad," she says softly, and it hits Harry. Draco has always taken so much pride in his looks. He's overheard him deep in conversation with Parkinson about the merits of different oils and creams for skin care and the validity of certain potions and their claims on how shiny they can make your hair. During school, barring 6th and this year, his uniform was always impeccable. More than anyone, Draco would not want to be told he smelled bad. And then a great idea popped into his head. Brilliant, really. What better way to make Draco miss his humanity than to remind him of what he's missing out on? Harry kneels down where Draco had disappeared and calls out for him. Ron and Luna attempt to help, but after 20 minutes, the three gave up. Draco isn't coming out. Ron had even gotten a nasty bite when he'd ventured a hand into the dark space. Oh well, he could worry about coaxing the Slytherin out later. He needs to act fast before more students return and the dorms get busier. Draco's roommate is Zabini, whom he hasn't seen enter the common room yet. Knocking on their door is met with silence. Harry takes a calming breath and whispers, "Aloha Mora." The door creaks open. Thankfully, the room is empty, and he's able to sneak into the adjoining bathroom. Each bathroom has a large bathtub and shower off to one side, a toilet and a large counter with 2 sinks. On Draco and Zabini's counter is obvious which side belongs to whom. Draco's side is filled with bottles and tubes of creams, liquids and powders. Some even glitter faintly with the telltale sign of cooling charms. Glancing through the multitude of beauty products, Harry zeroes in on shampoo and conditioner, unsurprised to see the lettering on the packaging isn't English. What was a shock was that it looks to be a Muggle brand. He grabs those along with a vial of hair oil, a bar of herb-scented soap in the shape of a swan, and a small pouch of powder that is embroidered with bubbles. Harry hopes the latter is a bubble bath. A short candle with flower petals embedded in the wax is added to the haul at the last minute. Wishing he'd bought his invisibility cloak, Harry escapes from the room, wordlessly locking the door again, and all but running to his room, only running into a bored-looking Hufflepuff along the way. Harry sets his findings on his side of the counter in his own bathroom. He stoppers the sink and fills it with warm water, casting a stasis charm to keep the temperature from cooling. The powder is indeed a bubble bath solution, and, along with a now lit candle, the small room smells like some unknown flower, wood, and orange. Now to collect Draco from his hiding space. Hopefully he hasn't moved in the time it has taken to rob his bathroom. The common room is empty when he gets back there, and Harry resumes his earlier positioning of being crouched in front of the bookcase. "Hey buddy, come on out. There's no one here to make fun of you anymore." Nothing. More cooing gives him no response either. Harry's getting scared that Draco might have gone somewhere else. "Come on, I have a surprise for you. I know you'll like it. Promise." A small head peeks out, and Harry beams down at him. "That's it, baby." The word slips out. Harry doesn't even realize he's said it, too busy imagining a human Draco with messy hair, threaded through with dust, looking up at him. Meanwhile, Draco's ferret head jerks back, thunking against the wood before it disappears again. It takes another minute of coaxing, borderline begging, to get Draco to reappear, and Harry doesn't stop cooing until they both make it to Harry's bathroom. Draco sniffs the air curiously and seems confused. "Not that I think you smell, but running around on the floor deserves a bath, especially since you didn't like my cleaning charm last time." Harry laughs as Draco chitters with what Harry assumes is leftover anger at the memory of Harry's abrasive magic scrubbing over his fur and sensitive skin. Harry watches Draco sniff at the array of containers, and he spots the exact moment where the other realizes that these are his own products. Draco lets out a happy-sounding duke and starts hopping around. Harry laughs again, enjoying the sight of a happy Draco. Soon Draco is half submerged in the sink, bubbles piled high, while Harry rinses out fancy French shampoo with a soft aguamenti. Harry works the conditioner in with gentle hands. Harry hates how much fun he's having pampering the Slytherin. His brain goes quiet. The only thought bouncing around is the picture of a human Draco with Harry's hands in his hair like this. Harry's hands still for a second, a flush rising to his cheeks. Harry definitely should not be thinking about that. Instead, he lifts a boneless Draco out of the sink, casts a warming charm as lightly as he can over the towel, and bundles the ferret up. Draco seems to doze off while Harry cleans up with a small grimace, desperately trying to clear his head once more. Hi. Sorry this one took a bit long. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.